quick backstory on how I got here. I wanted an e-bike. I bought an e-bike. I sold my e-bike. And I bought that bike. I swapped out the Fox 38 that comes with it for this DVO Onyx D1 38. I made a review on this fork, so if you're interested, you can watch that. The wheels are Spoke X SX 310s, carbon wheels. The hubs are Industry 9 101s. The shock is currently temporarily on loan. I'm running the Super Deluxe Ultimate right now. It did come with the X2 factory from Fox. I sold that, and I'm gonna get a new Topaz, which is their new generation. I believe it's called the Prime, to pair it up with the DVO fork up front. Up on top, I did replace the stock IBIS handlebars as well as the stem with an E13 cockpit, I'm gonna say. The brakes are stock Code RSCs. I am running the 1UP EDC light, and the saddle is a WTB Volt. I swapped out the stock Silverado that comes with it. I went ahead and bought shorter cranks. I was getting some pedal strikes from the 175s that it came with. It's supposed to come with 170s, but they're 165s, and not as many pedal strikes anymore. Drivetrain GX, cassette and derailleur. The shifter is NX. That's pretty much it in terms of a bike check. This is a big travel bike at 180 mils of travel in the front and 165 out back. I was initially turned off by the 180 mils of travel in the front. In my mind, that was just excessively exaggerated and unnecessary. But I've come to learn and experience that those extra 10 millimeters of travel don't necessarily translate into an inconvenience. If anything, I found they kick in when you need it. It's not getting in the way, for me at least, in terms of, say, climbing. The front end does stay put. There is traction on the front, plenty of traction, and we'll get to that here in a minute. And so yeah, I'm not necessarily feeling the fork as big as it looks on paper, or even when you look at it. Yeah, that was a big hesitation of mine, the 180 mils of travel up front, but it turns out it's not an issue. IBIS decided to make a change, and that is they are no longer going with extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, which is the conventional way. They are now going with sizes S1, S2, S3, 4, and 5. I think it's a smart move. Brands differ in how they design their bikes and they engineer their bikes, and so the sizing, small, medium, large, that traditional, I'm gonna say, or conventional sizing doesn't quite work well. And so this is a size 2, and it fits me perfectly. I am 5'9", and typically at my height I fall dead smack in between sizes. Fortunately for me, I've owned quite a few bikes over the last several years, and so I don't necessarily go to the sizing chart to determine what size I am. I go to the geometry of the bike, and based on that is how I determine which size to get. My reach preference is between 450 and 470. I like stability at high speeds, but I also like agility through the twists and through the turns. And so I prefer a wheelbase that lands me somewhere in the range of 1230 and 1240. I am 100% satisfied with a size 2. I think it fits my riding style, which I'm not a racer. I'm not a casual rider either. I'm somewhere in between. I would consider it or classify it more as a sporty type of riding. I do like to push the limits of irresponsibility every now and then, but not all the time. but I also do prioritize climbing. And so with that, let's segue into how this bike climbs. You're good, man. I'm gonna cut through here. You're good. You're good, you're good. I'm gonna cut. Thank you. I have owned 2 Ritmo V2s in the past, and I consider the Ritmo to be the gold standard when it comes to an all-around bike that can descend with confidence and can climb really well. And so I was not concerned in how this bike was going to end up climbing. I didn't demo it before I bought it, but I was a fan of the Ritmo, the V2. I kind of knew, and I was kind of confident that it was going to perform the same way on the way up. And not surprisingly, it does. It has a 76 degree C-tube angle, which is not the steepest. But what I found is when you have a very steep C-tube angle, like a 77 pushing a 78, it tends to push you forward, and therefore you put a lot of weight on your arms and your hands. And so that translates into fatigue, especially when you're climbing or just pedaling on flat ground. When you're going straight up, then it makes sense to have that steep C-tube angle. And so a 76 on the HD6 really makes sense to me, and it plays really well with the other numbers like I mentioned. I have not had a need to lock out the shock at any point in time. Yeah, I'm 100% sold on its ability to climb. You can pedal it all day, and you can descend all day as well, and it will just perform for you. At least that's what I found in my experience so far. It descends so good. It's that suspension platform playing really well with the geometry and the mixed wheel size. It's very supportive as you go heels down through the rough, and it maintains really good traction and stability. And then when you come out of the turns, or at least when I come out of the turns and start to pedal and put, get on my pedals, I guess, off the saddle and on the pedals, I can gain momentum or maintain momentum and not lose any efficiency, because that suspension just supports me and it translates into more power. And so, yeah, it's amazing going down on every aspect of it. Now, just because it doesn't feel like a big bike in terms of all that travel that it has, doesn't mean that it's a small bike either. It's like an aggressive, big travel bike. And I think the reason on why it feels that way, it's because of the sum of everything, to include the mullet setup. So it's a 27.5 wheel out back and a full 29er up front. You pair that with the conservative geometry, specifically the wheelbase landing right at around 1230, I want to say. And then you throw in a 180 mil fork, 165 travel shock, and everything just kind of tends to play together really well, making it a very agile, snappy, all the buzzwords, right? Playful, that can tackle just about anything, at least that I can throw at it. So big full-on enduro bike that just handles like a trail bike is probably the best way that I can describe this bike. As I mentioned, I have owned 2 Ritmo V2s in the past, but I always wanted more from it. Specifically, the wheelbase was like 1219 or something. I say all of that to say that this bike, to me, is everything that I wanted the Ritmo to be. think I'm in a good place in terms of the bikes that I have. I have my full-on enduro, and I have my trail bike, which is my Norco Fluid FS mid-travel. And then here soon I'm gonna be adding a gravel bike. I hope you enjoy this video. If you have any questions on anything that I may have missed, please ask in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. Thank you again. Until next time, ride your own ride, and God bless. Well, you look at this. I could not have picked a more perfect day to come out here and review my brand new IBIS HD6.